The Galactic War Council met under the veil of quiet certainty. 17 species, each ruling vast systems, sat in polished silence as a holographic projection displayed Earth's solar system. To them, it was a backwater, barely past its adolescence in interstellar terms. Primitive, isolated, and notoriously volatile. Chancellor Vorak of the Thalanar Alliance tapped his clawed finger on the projection. We extend enlightenment. They return it with aggression. His sentiment echoed in the room. Earth had refused integration. Twice. The second refusal came after a diplomatic envoy was fired upon over a disputed mining claim on the moon of Corsair. 3. The humans claimed ownership, citing historical scans. The Thalnari sent patrols. None returned. It wasn't a war. Not yet. But the message was clear. Humans had drawn blood. For the Council, that was enough. We will not tolerate such instability, barked General Zethu of the Kravar Dominion. Dispatch a correction force. Quick and clean. A display of strength. A vote passed. Unanimous. 50,000 soldiers, drawn from elite legions across the Council's factions, would descend on Earth. The objective was not extermination, it was instruction, pacification, restructuring. They didn't expect resistance. Humans lacked energy shielding, plasma-based weaponry, or even reliable off-world logistics. Their species had barely set up a colony beyond their moon. Their civilizations, while adaptive, remained fractured and emotionally governed. Ambassador Rel-10, a quiet figure among the Council, finally stood. Her voice was soft, cautious. They are not powerful, not yet, but they are anomalous. We should study longer. Laughter followed. Nervous, dismissive laughter. The concept of a meaningful threat from a species that still used projectile weapons was absurd. They cited Earth's history. Constant infighting, irrational conflicts, cycles of war and peace. No unified thought, no centralized direction. They war even among themselves, someone muttered. But Rel-10 wasn't comforted. That is what troubles me. With the Council's command issued, fleets were prepared. War cruisers loaded with soldiers, tanks, drones, and translators, because these primitives would need education after their surrender. Training programs were drafted. A special team would handle political indoctrination. A timeline was set. Earth's resistance would crumble within 12 standard cycles. The planet would be annexed, its population reorganized. No one asked if the plan would succeed, only how long it would take. Yet in private quarters, some commanders spoke more cautiously. Earth's physiology reports were unusual. Their biochemistry was erratic under stress, often becoming stronger when injured. Their battlefield decision-making was decentralized yet bizarrely effective. Emotional surges could override pain, sometimes logic. Their species had evolved not to adapt in time, but in crisis. Still, overconfidence prevailed. As fleets moved into position, Chancellor Vorax gave the final order. Humanity will be corrected. For their own good, they are not ready for the stars. He smiled as the ships vanished into jump space. What no one in that chamber realized, what they couldn't possibly comprehend, was that the very things they mocked in humans were not flaws. They were warnings, and they had just ignored them. They came with confidence. The Coalition fleet emerged in low orbit over Earth's major cities, casting shadows across continents. Transmission satellites fell silent under alien overrides. A single message, broadcast in every human language: submit peacefully. Re-education begins immediately. There was no reply. For 13 minutes, the world stayed eerily quiet. Then, Earth's skies blinked red. EMP pulses surged from hidden ground-based arrays, frying drop pods and corrupting targeting systems. Coalition cruisers stuttered mid-air, their shields flickering, weapons misfiring. Before soldiers even touched the ground, Earth had responded, not with diplomacy, but with a calculated strike against the enemy's assumptions. The first wave landed in what the invasion command labeled as Zone Delta, forced the terrain near a mid-sized city. The alien platoons expected panic, confusion, maybe primitive resistance. Instead, they met silence. Within minutes, half their units vanished into the trees. No bodies, Just open comms filled with static and the occasional whisper in broken alien tongue. Panic spread. Movement sensors detected nothing, but soldiers vanished one by one. Then came the fire. It wasn't advanced energy weaponry. It was bullets, knives, explosives made from local materials. But it worked. Too well. Explosive traps mangled armor. Bullets found gaps in shielding. Smoke grenades and sonic lures disoriented squads long enough for attackers to slip in and out, silent, precise, brutal. Reports came in from other zones. Urban centers erupted in ambushes. Civilians turned into combatants. Buildings swallowed squads whole. Tunnels, rooftops, sewers. Earth's defenders were everywhere and nowhere. Alien commanders attempted to regroup, but Earth's electronic warfare systems jammed their coordination. Transmissions were intercepted, rerouted, and distorted. Commands were given, then reversed mid-execution. Orders turned into chaos. Worse, humans fought with no identifiable pattern. Coalition strategy depended on hierarchical control, predictable logic. Humans ignored that. One unit would bait an entire armored convoy into a ruined city block, only for the structure to collapse around it seconds later. Another squad would feign retreat, only to strike from above with improvised firebombs. The aliens didn't just face combat. They faced psychological collapse. Survivors spoke of the shadows, unseen attackers who whispered in their language before striking, of traps made not to kill, but to cripple. Screams were left echoing on comms to lure others. Entire patrols disappeared without a trace, leaving only their gear arranged in mocking patterns. Drone footage captured humans using nothing more than instinct and coordination, no central command, and yet they struck with the unity of a single mind. General Zethu, once so sure, now hesitated before speaking. In his command logs, he wrote, "We did not land on a battlefield. We walked into a memory of war older than our empires. These creatures are not trained. They are born from conflict. Their history forged them for this." Panic wasn't official policy, but it crept into every alien soldier's movements. The question was no longer when Earth would surrender. It was, how many coalition soldiers would survive trying to force it? They called themselves Squad Dagger. 7 soldiers. No air support. No evac plan. Just a mission. Sever an alien supply chain moving to the Karpak Mountain corridor before it could reinforce the Eastern Front. Conditions were lethal. Sub-zero winds tore across the ridgelines, and visibility dropped to 2 meters in the snowstorms. Alien drones couldn't navigate. Thermal imaging was useless. The terrain was saturated with heat fluctuations from geothermal vents. To the Coalition, it was a no-go zone. To Squad Dagger, it was home. Captain Reyes led them. His wife had died during the first orbital bombardment in New York. He hadn't spoken much since. Didn't need to. The team understood him through the way he moved. Orders came in gestures, glances, quiet code. They reached the drop point at 0300. Within an hour, they had mapped alien convoy paths, marked high ground positions, and planted directional explosives along narrow passes. They didn't aim for a confrontation. They aimed for collapse. To turn the enemy's own route into a graveyard. Private Onyechin ran comms, modifying an old music player to mimic alien distress signals. It lured scout parties off-path, right into kill zones. Their screams, brief, then gone, never reached their commanders. Corporal Malik handled the mines. He didn't just plant them. He sculpted the terrain so the snow would shift just enough to expose a foot or wheel at the right moment. Each detonation was a lesson in timing. None were wasted. By the 3rd day, the aliens began marching in tighter formations. More drones, armored crawlers, daggered and slowed down. They adapted faster. Every new move from the enemy was answered with sharper resistance. Where the aliens tried brute force, Dagger used precision. Where the aliens planned, the humans improvised. One night, Reyes crawled beneath an alien hover transport and disabled its power core with nothing but a toolkit and a repurposed grenade. He rejoined the squad, breath steaming, face frozen, and said only one less. But it wasn't the tactics that broke the aliens. It was what followed. A wounded alien officer, pulled from wreckage, was kept alive. Chen asked him why they came. He said Earth needed to be normalized, that human unpredictability was a danger. She didn't respond. She just showed him a photo she kept in her helmet. Her kid, smiling in front of burnt-down school, holding a flag made from scraps. He didn't understand, but he remembered the look in her eyes. When alien reinforcements finally reached the corridor, they found nothing. No soldiers, no weapons, just a trail of mangled machinery, scorched snow, and a single human helmet planted in the ice. Inside, a note written in the alien tongue. "You don't understand us. That's why you're afraid." The corridor remained shut for the remainder of the war. No one volunteered to reopen it. Squad Dagger was never recovered. Some said they died in the mountains. Others believed they never left, just faded into the frost, waiting. In the aftermath, the universe shifted its view of Earth. The Coalition fleet retreated in confusion, their superiority shattered by a planet they had underestimated. The Galactic War Council scrambled to adjust, but the reality was undeniable. Earth's soldiers were no longer a joke. They were a new legend, and that legend had spread. A ceasefire was called, a truce negotiated not out of diplomacy, but out of fear. The Galactic Confederacy had seen many wars, species wiping each other out, entire civilizations lost in the blink of an eye, but they had never seen anything like Earth. Humans were not just survivors. They were predators, and their hunger for freedom was insatiable. When the war officially ended, Earth did not enter the galactic fold, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. Earth had seen what the Confederacy stood for, power through control, and rejected it. They were offered alliances, trade agreements, the promise of shared technology. Earth refused it all. Instead, they took their place as a cautionary tale. "Never provoke Earth" became the motto whispered to the halls of power. War academies on distant worlds used Earth as a study subject, the human method. An entire generation of officers learned not just about human warfare, but about their very essence. The human ability to adapt, to think in ways that no invader could predict, left the most advanced species baffled. The stories began to spread, not of battles won with sheer strength, but of enemies broken by human will. Warriors who fought with a desperation born not from hunger for power, but from a need to protect their own. Military analysts now cited Earth's greatest strength as something the universe had never understood: emotion. They fought for survival, yes, but they also fought for love, for family, for a broken past they refused to repeat. They fought with everything they had, not because they were trained to do so, but because they had no other choice. No one else would defend their world but them. And that single-minded drive, that overwhelming sense of duty to something greater, made them unpredictable, and that made them terrifying. As the years passed, the stories of Squad Dagger spread across galactic borders. The names of Earth's fallen heroes were etched into alien monuments, not as martyrs, but as warning signs. Shrines were built not to honor their bravery, but to remind all who saw them that Earth was a place to be feared. A child from the Zinner system asked their father one night, "Why do we teach this story of Earth? What makes their soldiers so different?" The father hesitated, then spoke softly. "Because, child, when the galaxies were torn by war and the greatest armies faltered, the soldiers of Earth fought not for honor, not for glory, but for something far stronger." He paused, his voice filled with a mix of awe and fear. They fought for their homes. And so humanity, still young in galactic terms, became a legend. The universe would never forget that Earth's soldiers didn't just win wars. They reshaped how the stars would forever view them. Humanity had written its name in the stars, not with weapons, but with the indomitable will of those who refused to be crushed. They had become something the universe could never, ever forget.